Welcome. This is Healthy Living, and just to let you know that you shouldn't forget the reason for the season. I mean, it's Esther, and Jesus Christ is the reason for the season. Welcome on board. Here we get to talk everything health, and it's quite important that you get to prioritize your health because health, they say, is wealth. I am Nuluakbo Stephen. So it's the holiday period pretty much from Friday up until now, and it's actually a time for you to take out time to rest, to unwind, to spend time with your family, and the list actually is endless. For a lot of persons, for a lot of you who tend to do the 9 to 5, perhaps maybe you run your business and every single time you always complain about the fact that you're stressed. And I hear some persons would even say, living in Nigeria alone is stress, right? On a daily basis, out of 1 to 10, there's every, statistics that shows that a lot of persons get stressed in Nigeria on a daily basis and also in the world as well, depending on where you find yourself and the things that actually triggers the stress. That is why on today's episode, we are going to be looking at stress management and effective techniques to reduce stress. So it's one thing to be stressed. It's another thing for the reduction to be done. How can you reduce the stress? On this episode, we are going to find out some of the things that even triggers the stress, what stress is all about, and the list actually is endless. Of course, I won't be doing this alone, as I have joining me virtually from Delta State, Nigeria, George Aham. He is a biologist at Western Hospital. Thank you so much, George, for coming on the show today. How are you?
I'm fine. I know. How are you doing? Happy Easter to you
Of
and to
course.
everybody that is watching us today.
Absolutely. Happy Easter to you too. So, before we even get into the meat of the conversation, I don't know, George, if you've seen the trending video of a particular man who I think he was in church and they were having his wife birthday Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden he slumped and died. I mean, he was rushed to the hospital. On getting to the hospital, it was actually discovered that he got, he arrived dead, right? So a lot of questions actually ran through my head. What could have actually happened as at that point? What do you think led to that?
Okay, so there are a lot of reasons that could have led to that, but there are two reasons that are very common. One
Right.
of them is uncontrolled blood pressure. So you have blood pressure that have not been controlled over a long period of time that have resulted to ischemic stroke, which resulted to a death. So maybe by the time the person was rushed to the hospital, damage have already been done. So a lot of persons don't think that elevated blood pressure is a problem, but the truth is that as a black man, as a black woman, once you have crossed the age of 40 years, it's very important that you know your numbers. Some people are walking on the streets with blood pressure of 200 over 120 millimeter per mercury. That's a lot of values. It can result to immediate end organ damage and could result to death if it's not managed properly. So most times you see them, they have already flopped. And by the time you bring them to the hospital, it's too late for you to be able to do anything to help those individuals. So that could be one. Another one is uncontrolled sugar level. So it could be higher, it could be lower. So when the sugar drops, drops below the acceptable range of, let's say, going to 50, 40, when you're getting these values, then you have to be very careful what you're dealing with because the person can actually slump at that particular point in time. And any of this can result to this, maybe in addition with any other health challenges that
Right.
the person already has.
So stress has nothing to do with it at all. And how do you think subsequently all of this kind of things can be avoided? You know?
Well, it's very simple. I cannot completely rule out stress.
Okay.
Maybe when we get to the conversation, we'll be able to understand why I said I can't completely rule out stress. But to really be honest with you, how do we avoid all of this? Go for regular checkups. If you're above 40 years, if now Before then we say that elevated blood pressure is a disease condition, or elevated sugar level are disease conditions associated with age. As you continue to get older, these values will continue to change. But the honest truth right now is that a lot of things are going on in the society. You are even seeing younger persons who are having values above the acceptable range. People of 20 something years are having elevated blood pressure, maybe because of a lifestyle. A lot of things have changed. The kind of drugs that people now take, recreating drugs, and different other things, changes in environment. So all of this could have contributed to a factor. But when we go into stress, we see how stress contributes to all of this.
Okay, now let's get into the nitty gritty already. Stress. What is stress really? As easy as it sounds, as easy as it is being used every single time, what does stress really mean?
Okay, the honest truth is that stress does not really mean what a lot of people think stress is.
Okay.
And stress can be a good thing sometimes, and it can also be bad some other times. So the actual definition of stress is the disruption of the internal balance of the body. So for every human being, and even some other animals, have the ability to maintain a balance in your body. This is what I'm saying. Any day, anytime, if you check your temperature of a normal human being, you're getting between 36 points, point 0.2, point 0.3, point 0.4. Now, if that blood pressure begins, or about that temperature begins to exceed and go into 38, 39, 40, you see there is a problem already. Something is wrong. So there is a particular range that the temperature of a human being is supposed to be for the body to function effectively. So also is the blood pressure. If you check the blood pressure, there is a range between 120 over 18 for the systolic and diastolic millimeter per mercury, going to 139 over 89 millimeter per mercury. And some other ones, people can get lower than that too. But if you are going above that, you are saying the person have already hypertension. So anything, any condition includes any condition, not just what we think it is, not just I'm working too much. No, stress can be caused by a lot of factors. Part of the factors include environmental factors like too much heat, and stress can disrupt that balance. Too much cold can disrupt that balance. Perception that the landlord is coming to ask you for rents that you do not have can disrupt that balance. Your girlfriend breaking your heart can cause stress. There is no money for food in the family, can cause stress. So there are different categories of stress: environmental stress, emotional stress, financial stress, physical stress. All of these are stress. But
Now,
management of these is what we
right.
should actually
Before we
talk
move over
about.
to the management, yes, out of all of the things you've mentioned, because you've mentioned
Yeah,
environmental stress, you've mentioned
yeah,
emotional stress, and I know there's also
yeah,
workplace stress as well. So, out of all of this you've
yeah.
mentioned, which is the worst of them all?
Okay, so the unfortunate thing about stress is that the body doesn't know the difference between any of this. Now, let me explain it. So, if somebody is coming with a gun to shoot you, you notice that your heart begins to beat faster. Now, the hormone adrenaline is released so that you can escape from that imminent danger that your body perceives that you are in. The same way your body will react is the same way it will react if, let's say, for instance, your boyfriend tells you, I'm going to break your heart, or you are perceiving that he wants to break your heart. You are perceiving, you almost react, your body is reacting almost the same way because it doesn't know the difference. All I know is that there is a disruption in the balance. I've released the hormone for you to escape from this danger. So there is no worst, but the honest truth of stress depends on three main things. Number one, there is a stressor, which is what is causing that danger at that particular point in time. There is a stress perception. That is the individual's ability to perceive the stress. And this is what plays the role in all of this. Let me give you an example. If the landlord says your rent is, I don't know why I'm always calling landlord, but let's keep using that. If the landlord says, for instance, that your rent is have been increased to 1 million naira, and you have 300 million in your account, your perception is what is 1 million. I'll just take it out and give to you. So it's not an issue. But if he says your rent is 5,000 naira, and you don't have any money in your account, you are going to be stressed out looking for that money. So it's perception, the level of resources that you have to meet up with the demand at that particular point in time. is what causes the stress and what makes different people to react in different ways. When you do not have enough resources to respond to that particular stress in that particular point in time, then there is a problem. Somebody wants to beat you, and you know well in your heart that I can beat this particular condition. You are not stressed. You are going into an exam, and you know you've read, you know the answers. Probably somebody told you the answers. You're not going to be stressed. But if you know you've not read, I don't know what is going to come out. You are sweating from every part of your body. Your system has changed completely because you do not have the resources to meet up with that particular demand on you at that particular point in time. So that is what is causing the stress. It is not about the fact or the stress of, in this case, it's about the perception of the individual of that particular stress. That's what makes you stressful.
So what I can deduce, George, from everything you said is there is a big connection between the mind, right, and this stressor that you've spoken about. So it's more or less like a mindful game and a mindful situation, if you ask me. But then again, during the course of the show, you actually did say that stress can be a good thing, and then it can be a bad thing. And I'm thinking in my head, how is that even possible? Let's talk about the good aspect of stress.
Okay, so before we go into that, I just want to make a bit of correction. So
Right.
it's not really the mind, it's
Okay.
about the resources, whether it's emotional resources, financial resources, physical resources that you have to meet up with the challenge that is in front of you at that particular point in time. Let's say fire is burning you are in 5-story building and you can fly. You are not going to be stressed because I know I can fly. I have the resources to address this. Your boyfriend wants to break your heart, or your girlfriend wants to break your heart. You already have a side chick waiting. You're not going to react the same way if you don't have any other alternative at all. It's if you do not have the resources to meet up with the demand at that particular point in time. Children are going back to school. You have all the money. You're not going to be stressed. But if you don't have it, that's when the stress comes in. So let's go back to your question. How is it good or bad? Without stress, every one of us, nobody wants to wake up in the morning. I want to continue to sleep and rest as much as I want to rest. But there is a stress coming in knowing that you have some obligation to meet up. I have some bills I need to pay. So you have to find a way to wake up from your bed and push yourself to achieve your desired goals for that particular day. I want to go to school. There is no exam. Imagine if you are going to school and there is no exam. Nobody's going to test you to know what you've learned. People will not be going to class. But introducing the fact that there is some sort of examination, a way to test what you've learned, puts you on edge to be able to push yourself to know, even if it's difficult and you don't know how you're going to be able to solve that particular situation. So, in these conditions, in these instances I've given to you, stress can be a good thing. In fact, if there is no stress, all of us will become very lazy people because on a normal day, human beings want to do what is very convenient for them. Nobody wants to do anything that puts him out of his convenience. We want to do what makes you comfortable and convenient. They tell you to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. If my body is not exceeding the level that it's supposed to be, or probably making me feel some type of way. I don't want to go to the gym. Why would I go there? But because I'm already feeling some type of way, people are telling you are becoming too big, and some of those things that emotional stress coming in is pressuring you to go to the gym to work out. So yes, in that particular instance, it can be a good thing. But on the
Right.
other
It's
hand, it
right.
can be bad when it's not managed properly, when it's not controlled. A lot of
Okay.
things can go wrong.
It's beautiful how all of the things you're actually saying is totally relatable. I mean, when you said it's already daytime and it's time for you to wake up in the morning, and then you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's Monday morning already. Like a lot of persons actually does this Monday morning. But anyway, let's talk about how to manage stress because you and I know that every single time all of these things would come up. I mean, there are times where you'd be worked out emotionally, health wise. How can one actually manage all of this and get to have productivity at the end of the day?
Okay, so there are several ways depending on what is causing the stress. Now, there is what you call stress analysis. That is, you analyze the situation. What exactly is the stressor in this instance? For instance, if you are living above your means, you are living beyond what you can afford. You are not married, for instance, and you're living in a 5 bedroom apartment and the rent is 7 million and you cannot afford it, why are you living in a 5 bedroom apartment? That's the next question. So you try to plan when you have identified what the problem is, try to address it from that place. You are going to write exams and you know that you have not read. So what do? Start preparing on time. Start reading on time to prepare to meet up. You have rent to pay. You start saving for it on time so that you can be able to meet up. Planning is a way to manage stress effectively. Another way to manage stress is exercise. Now, the way the body reacts under stress is, now the body perceives that there is something, a danger, imminent danger. Whatever the danger is, really doesn't matter at this particular point in time because the body doesn't know the difference. All I know is that I'm perceiving that there is a danger. Now, the body makes you see that your heart is beating faster. As it's beating faster, it is not a problem. But the challenge is if you remain in that state of stress for a very long period of time, what happens is you begin to have elevated blood pressure. Now, on all the other disease conditions that can come out from that begins to happen. So for you to manage it effectively, part of the things that you may need to do is to go for gymming, walk, exercise, recreational activities, relax your body, make out time to rest. I can't say that well enough. Make out time to rest because in all honesty, you need the body to work. If the body is worked out, there is no way it's going to be able to carry you the next day. So the body that have been carrying you to do all the work that you've been doing, make out time to rest that body. Very important. Now, if you know that there are conditions that you can change, for instance, there are people that are upset that I don't like the way they treat me in my office because I'm not a graduate. Go to school. If there are situations that you can change, go to school. Change it if you can. But if there are situations that you can't change, for instance, I'm a black man, I'm born a black man, and I can't change it to become a white man. Some people is stressing the living daylight out of their body, and they use different kinds of cream to be able to achieve a white skin or to make them, have this fake, fake fantasy that I belong to a particular class. If you know that you cannot be there, accept who you are, accept the condition for what it is, and learn how to manage and live your life. And go ahead.
Right. Let's go back to the start of the conversation and try to have a link with that man who slummed. May his soul rest in peace. I think it happened in Lagos because I remember I did ask you if stress is also one of those things that actually triggered, the slump at that event.
Yes, you did ask that question, and to an extent, I've mentioned a few things about that. Now, when I was trying to define or say how the body reacts to stress, I've mentioned that when you are in constant stress, position of stress, your heartbeat, your entire circulatory system begins to work beyond the normal range. And that can result to you having, in fact, there are a lot of disease conditions or factors that can happen as a result of someone that is stressed. One of those is alopecia. That means people that don't have hair. Stress can cause that. Erectile dysfunction. Stress can cause that. Irregular menstruation can be caused by stress. Acne can be caused by stress. Weakened immune system can be caused by stress. Inability to eat very well can be caused by stress. Elevated blood pressure can be caused by stress. Hormonal imbalance can be caused. So there are all of these things I've mentioned. Imagine if that man is stressed and is dealing with any of these things or all of these put together. Your wife is telling you you're not man enough, you're not performing on bed. That have driven many people to their early grave. They start mixing different concoction of things to be able to meet up to the demands, to the emotional demand at home. And when they are not able to meet up to these demands, add it to elevated blood pressure, add it to any other disease condition that can come in at that particular point in time, you will have a cocktail that has been properly mixed to result in the situation that happened. that we are discussing about right now. So
Okay.
yes, if people are not taking care of themselves, not monitoring their body, any of these things can happen at any point in time.
All right, George. So I feel like this conversation is timely, especially, considering the fact that this is the holiday. A lot of persons have been resting, and I honestly want to believe that you've had enough time to rest, you watching at the moment. But then again, as we tend to leave the conversation here, because it's always an unending one, I would want you to lay more emphasis on self-care and how it relates to, stress management.
Stress, we cannot talk about ending stress. You can't stop it. Stress is going to be there. You can't stop stress. So people that are talking about, I want to remove stress from my life. You cannot remove stress from your life. It's part of your everyday activity. At every point in time, something is going to, if the rain is falling now and you don't have an umbrella, you're going to be stressed out. That is stress already. So you can't change some of the factors. But what you can definitely do as an individual, as a person, as an adult, is once a year, go and know your value. Even if you don't do anything, check your blood pressure, check your sugar level. If you're a man, check your post-rates, PSA, post-rate surface antigen. Do it, know the values. It's one of the leading things that are destroying men in this day and age. If you're a woman, try, know your, check if you have cervical cancer, if it's common, or breast cancer, very common.
Right.
These things that I've mentioned in a very simple thing that you can easily relate to. If you
Okay.
can know this value, do a simple urinalysis test. If you can know these things that I've mentioned now, it will give you an inclination to anything that is coming up that you may not
Absolutely,
know. And then
George.
the rest, stay
Right. So
hydrated, drink
we
enough
really
water.
need to go pretty much and leave the conversation here. I wish it could go on, but I really must thank you, George Aham, a biologist with the Western Hospital. Thank you so much for finding out time to be here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a
Okay.
nice day.
Have a nice day too. So that actually wraps it up. Me just adding my 2 cents. Ensure you have enough time to always rest and prioritize your health, know your health status, because at the end of the day, if you get a fall tomorrow, another person is going to quickly replace you. So you might want to pay more attention to your health. That being said, thank you so much for joining me. I am Anuoluwapo Stevens. Have yourself a blissful day ahead.